You're very welcome to the latest edition of Treaty Talk. Myself, Jack Neville, and Matt Callan of the Vale Star and Weekly Observer. Another bumper weekend of action, Matt, ahead of us. We'll start with the footballers who have a Munster semi-final with Tipperary tomorrow in the LIT Gaelic Grounds at 1:15, which is live on RT News now. Obviously, the footballers started their Munster Championship campaign last week with a win over Waterford in the Fraher Fields in the quarter-final. It was followed on from promotion to Division 3. They weren't resting on their laurels, hit the ground running, and were very comprehensive over the 70 minutes.
Well, Jack, absolutely. And we felt here last week, you know, first of all, we felt that they would do the job, that they'd get the job done, but that it might be a tricky assignment given the forecast that was for the weekend and the conditions in the Fraher Field on Saturday evening were just that very, very unpleasant. But I think overall, you must be mindful that, believe it or not, Jack, it was Limerick's third trip to the Fraher Field this year. They had been there in the McGrath Cup, won by 2 goals, had been there in the league and won by a goal. So, you know, it was anything but a gimme, despite the fact that Limerick had won the McGrath Cup, despite the fact that Limerick had won promotion. And more so why it wasn't a gimme was because, here were Limerick coming off within a week of gaining promotion, and you know, really, and we spoke about it last week, and his management team had a huge job to ensure that the lads stayed grounded. But by God, Jack, I thought it was an extremely efficient performance by Limerick. And we had talked about the games against Wexford and the games against Sligo, and the creation of goal-scoring chances and Limerick's failure to take it. And Billy Lee himself said, look, we created 11 chances. We took one. He was quite worried about it. And, you know, after the Sligo game, he vowed to work on it. And obviously did, because the opportunities, the 2 opportunities that came early in the game, they took them. And it effectively killed off the game. It gave Waterford, it dented Waterford's confidence, and Waterford started brightly against the elements and had a point up within a minute or 2 from Murray, their corner forward, Conor Murray, their captain. But after that, it was all downhill for Waterford, and they were really struggling to stay in touch. Once the 2 goals went in, it was practically game, set, and match. Limerick were very efficient after that. Built their lead up to half-time, 7 points clear at half-time. After the break, probably sat back a small bit and let Waterford come at them. But and Waterford, I suppose, were left to rule 4 or 5, maybe 6 wides, I suppose, in the first 15 minutes before, we'll say, what we call the third quarter. But it was because of the pressure that was exerted by the Limerick defence. They were kicking under pressure, and even to kick on that particular evening without being under pressure was a difficult task. But Limerick, you know, they just very competently and efficiently closed out the game, and it put them in good stead going into Saturday's game with Tipperary in the Munster semi-final.
Yeah, and you just mentioned the creation of goal chances there. Obviously, last year against Tipp, the 3 goals were crucial. They'll definitely need them again this Saturday, tomorrow, against Tipperary if they are to move into Munster final.
Yeah, they will. You know, goals are an important ingredient in building up a match-winning score in any game, and we see it. And the day that we went on a goal route, goal fest in the league, ultimately decided that who were the league champions. It was the day in Mick Neville Park when they put 5 past Wicklow. That was the crucial day. Now, you know, not taking their chances, they created the same number of chances against Antrim, didn't take them. Against Wexford, we saw what happened. Against Sligo, didn't take them. Now, they didn't get near the same number of chances against Waterford, because apart from the 2 goals, I don't think Aaron Beresford was really tested anything of threat. But the thing is, Limerick were in command against Waterford. It was a question after getting the 2 goals and showing Waterford a clean pair of heels that it was a question of closing out the game. And I think Limerick, they seem to be happy with sort of containment at that stage. And I thought it was a very composed and competent and efficient performance on the part of Limerick.
Yeah, it was an excellent performance, and Limerick will be back in the Gaelic rounds for the first time since that McGrath Cup win over Cork. If they put in a performance like they did against Cork back in January, there should be a place in Munster final for them.
Should be. For the first time in 10 years. And reading the narrative all the week and reading the narrative since last Sunday and listening to discussions on it, like, Limerick are going into the game as underdogs. Despite having played 11 competitive games this year, despite having won 9 of them, despite having won the McGrath Cup, despite having won promotion, Limerick are still underdogs. But they're going in against the Division 3 side, Tipperary, who finished mid-table in Division 3. And it's an early opportunity for Billy Lee and his management team to benchmark their side against the Division 3 side in a competitive setting. And we'll give them some sort of a metric or some sort of a gauge as to what life in Division 3 would be all about. But what's really at issue here is a place in the Munster final. And I think Limerick are well placed going into Sunday's game. Now, Tipperary, they had a good win over Clare. They seemed to be out the gate at one stage in the game, but Clare came back into it and had a penalty saved even, and only lost by 3 points in the finish. But it was a victory over a Division 2 side. If you want to pay too much attention to the gradings in the league, I think this has the ingredients to be a humbler. Limerick are far less outsiders going into Saturday's game than they were going to Hurlers last year to play Tipperary. So I think it's all to play for here, and I think Limerick are quite capable of making the Munster final. Yeah,
and we just looked at it before we came on air. The last time the Hurlers and footballers were in a Munster final the same year was 1934. In a word, Matt, will we have a double Munster final to look forward to?
I think we will. We'll have a busy 2 Sundays coming up. I think we will, and wouldn't it be a lovely situation in the middle of a pandemic? What a lift it would be for the people of Limerick. Being in the hurling final is absolutely fantastic, but the performance of the footballers cannot be ignored. There's a lot of very, very dedicated football people in Limerick, and no one more dedicated than the manager, Billy Lee. And this is for them, and this is payback for all the good work that they have done over the years and the faith that they had in sticking with it.
Yeah, and I think sometimes the Hurlers overshadow it, and it's for a good reason. The Hurlers are flying it, but you do have to come back to Billy Lee at the end of the day. He went through so much with this team since coming on board in 2017. You'll obviously remember that there was over 50 players refused to play for the team or didn't go in for whatever reason. And it's just brilliant to see the team. They're so settled now. There's so many players that have been retained for the last few years really coming into their own. And they're playing a beautiful brand of football. Above all, the attacking intent from the team from the get-go is brilliant to see from Billy Lee in the side.
Yeah, but a lot of the attitude within the squad, and a lot of the way that the squad behaves themselves is mirroring in many ways what the Hurlers are doing. Their whole approach. There seems to be great camaraderie within the squad, which is hugely important. And Billy has built up this group sense, like John Kiley did, this group sense, and that we're all in it together. And it certainly is working.
Yeah, and it is working. Please God, it'll work tomorrow, and roughly in about 7 hours time, we'll be looking forward to that Munster football final obviously, the winners tomorrow will play Kerry or Cork. They meet on Sunday. We definitely have one Munster final to look forward to next Sunday in Hurlers. It was decided last night. Limerick will play Waterford. Limerick got there by virtue of that 323 to 217 win over Tipperary and Park Queeve last weekend. In those conditions, Matt, how good did the Hurlers perform last weekend to put up a score of 323?
I thought they performed excellently, Jack. I thought, look, you could stretch it and say that they were awesome, maybe, but I still think that they didn't even reach full potential on the day. But I thought it was an absolutely outstanding performance. Now, right, Limerick had the benefit of a game coming into it. Tipperary hadn't. Neither side could have legislated for the conditions that prevailed in Park Queeve last Sunday. But we have to say, Jack, that the pitch in Park Queeve was absolutely pristine condition. Absolutely. John Kiley referred to it in his post-match interview, the absolutely excellence of the pitch in Park Queeve, and that has got to be said. It was the prevailing conditions, the wind and the rain that came down. And Limerick had, first of all, I think Limerick had just adjusted. They were out of the traps much quicker, and I think they adjusted better to the conditions early on. Now, Tipperary showed a bit of rustiness, right? They clawed their way back into it, but I think there was a defining period there before half time when Limerick ran off 5 points on the trot, and I suppose when Jake Morris got the goal, you'd say to yourself, "Gee, Tipper back into it here now. They're going to make a serious go of this." But right immediately at the other end, you had Adam Gillan kicking the ball into the Tipperary net, which offset it immediately, which was a huge blow to Tipperary. But I thought that period before halftime, they put a bit of daylight and they gave themselves something really to hang on to in the second half, which they did very, very well. And I suppose the penalty was a turning point. Insofar as that Tipperary had got 3 points straight after half time, and suddenly with one puck of the ball, it was all undone. And of course, we had the controversial goal, which I think is unfortunate. Now I know that the referee obviously knew that there was something amiss, but he just couldn't pinpoint it, and to a certain degree in the conditions, I wouldn't blame him. You had camera work can pick up these things at very, very close quarters. The linesman might have been unsighted. Now the umpires, I'd say, didn't have a chance on earth of seeing it. So because he had his back, he was on the ground and he had his back to the umpires, so they had no chance. But I think it's unfortunate that and I'm not an advocate of VAR or anything like that, but there should be some way that the like of that shouldn't be allowed to happen in a vital game. Suppose Tipperary won the game by a point or two. What kind of a discussion would we be having today? Would it be Croke Park All Ireland semi-final last year, Mark 2? That's there's so much preparation and the stakes are so high in games at the moment. And we have a wonderful, wonderful game. But by God, these things should not be happening.
Yeah, it's something that we'll probably have to look at. And as you said, VAR doesn't appear to be working in the Premier League and in soccer in general. But look, we're thankful that Limerick came through it and were well comprehensive winners and weren't winning by a point or losing by points to bring that into focus. But just on the field of play, Limerick were unbelievable again. And yesterday, Gerard Hegarty was awarded the October Player of the Month. Just on Gerard for a minute, his transformation from when he was kind of a raw, kind of rangy player when he came on the scene, kind of 2015-21 side at wing back. and he's the front runner now for Hurler of the Year, I would imagine, after them two performances. Just a word on Hegarty and his performances this year.
His performances have been simply incredible. You're right, actually. When he did come on, he was a footballer playing hurling, as a lot of us thought. But by God, how he settled into that under-21 team back in 2015, and how he has developed as a player since. And John Kiley moved him from a defender to an attacker, and what a vital cog he's in the Limerick attack. But the thing about Garrod Hegarty is obviously he's setting his own standards, because he's showing demonstrable and measurable improvement year on year, and he really now is hitting the high spots. But referring again, playing Cian Lynch at centre forward and playing Kyle Hayes at wing back proved to be a master stroke, because anything that Liam Sheedy had planned for counteracting, particularly Cian Lynch and Kyle Hayes, Kyle Hayes, like the form that he showed against Clare, Liam Sheedy's plans were thrown straight into disarray when it happened. And the influence of Cian Lynch in the game of over 70 minutes, I thought on Sunday, was simply enormous. Kyle Hayes slotted in, dovetailed beautifully in at wing back. It's not entirely alien to him playing in the half-back line. And Darragh O'Donovan was in his natural position at midfield and put in a huge shift. So, it was a master stroke. So, Liam Cahill now will be preparing to face Limerick. He really doesn't know what he is preparing to face. I thought they were master strokes. But the performance of Garrod Hegarty has just been phenomenal. I think the guy has limitless ability, and he makes it look so easy. He strikes over points there. It's great to watch.
Yeah,
long may it be, Jack.
I was listening to a few people talking about the game during the weekend. They were just literally saying how much of a nightmare would be to mark Hegarty and really any of them Limerick six forwards. But I suppose a special note must go to the midfield pairing of Darragh Donovan and William O'Donoghue, because a lot of the focus went on Cian Lynch and Kyle Hayes moving positions, whatever, and obviously the performances of William and Darragh kind of went unnoticed to a certain extent midfield, but the two of them were absolutely brilliant. And you would remember the two of them started in Thurles last year in the game Limerick lost in Thurles, and it was kind of a below par performance from Limerick, but they were instrumental to the win last week in the middle, and I don't think they got the credit they deserved for it.
Yeah, William O'Donoghue, I thought probably his best game for Limerick. I thought he was immense around midfield. Tipp were hoping, of course, that Noel McGrath would get him a pull around midfield, but he played at wing forward for a lot of the game, and like he had been doing, and it just didn't happen. William O'Donoghue had a massive game, and he's becoming more and more such a vital cog in this Limerick team. Big strong man with loads and loads of hurling ability, and William O'Donoghue's got leadership qualities. We just see it the way he has led. He has led in the Piersic, and he's just bringing that onto the inter-county stage. There's no doubt whatsoever about his hurling, and he's such a vital cog on the team. But I think something that possibly slipped under the radar as well, and because we're simply beginning, I think, in Limerick to take him for granted and assume that it will happen. That was the performance of Aaron Gillan at full forward. I thought it was immense. He was recognised in the team of the week and the hurler of the week, and I thought he, he's such a problem to any defence. And the way he's moving around and his ability to win possession, and he's a clinical finisher. He's got the full hand, and I think that is really worth mentioning. And contrasted with the Tipperary full forward, Seamus Callan, who was held scoreless. Now, Callan did make a very important intervention in the game, in that was he set up the goal for Jake Morris. Some very good work by Callan, but the Limerick defence policed him very closely. Dan Morrissey has settled in at full back, settled in very well. Barry Nash had a much improved performance than on the first game. Like, you know, all the trajectory around the field is in the right direction, Jack.
Yeah, and look, you can't mention everyone, but like they're literally to a man. Limerick were exceptional. Aaron Gillan is really approaching that bracket where you don't mention him after games, because the likes of 2, 6, 1, 12, 15 points, these kind of scorelines are expected. And it's only when we look, hopefully we'll have another 10, 12 years of him. But when he's gone, you'll realise how excellent he was. But I don't want to revert back. Go on.
You take the goal in isolation, Jack. You take the goal in isolation. How many players would have won possession, first of all? And when he was bottled up, how many would have executed what he executed? Very few, I would suggest.
But he's clearly working on his football skills after the few misses in 2018. And how many players would have caught the slitter and caught their man's hurley at the same time? But look, he buried the goal. And again, I don't want to be mentioning names or going between codes, but while we're on the topic of players in the team of the week, Ian Corbett, again, in that football team of the week. I suppose we should have mentioned when we were talking about that football, but Ian Corbett has been exceptional this year and last year as well. Just the barometer he has, the average display for Ian Corbett is an 8 or 9 or 10 every single week.
Unbelievable, and again, there's a bit of the Aaron Gillan about him that we're beginning to expect it from Ian Corbett. Like that, there's a very high benchmark expected from him. But by God, he delivers it to him. What a leader out the field to have in Ian Corbett. And Jack, it was up on social media during the week. You probably saw the pass, absolutely sublime pass to Killian, to peek out Killian Flahy's run. You must remember that the conditions were dire, and this was perfectly executed. And Killian Flahy laid it in for Adrian Enright to finish it into the net. Like, you know, that tells it all about Ian Corbett, I think. Like he's such a huge figure on the Limerick team. He never puts in a performance below par. And it's the same with Newcastle West. Like when you're facing Ian Corbett, you know you're on a damage limitation exercise for the simple reason that what you want to do is try and curtail his influence, because you can only do to a certain amount anyway. Like he's a super athlete as well. Very strong man, great carrier of the ball. Like he has so many attributes, and plus his leadership qualities, which are unquestionable.
Yeah, and look, hopefully we have guaranteed one Munster final next Sunday. Hopefully there'll be another one the following weekend. But on that following weekend, we have a ladies junior football All-Ireland semi-final to look forward to. We don't know who Limerick are going to play yet, but they've been excellent so far. Obviously 2019 was very disappointing for the ladies footballers, having got promoted to intermediate. They're back down in junior. But they've shown the games against Derry first of all, and then Antrim last weekend, goals from Cathy Mee and Amy Ryan will prove the difference. And again, a lovely brand of football the Limerick lady football team are playing.
Yeah, a lovely brand of football, and particularly against Derry. I thought that at half time they looked not to have done enough, but they put in a huge second half. And it was a replica of that against Antrim. Now, Antrim had a very poor league campaign in that they played 4 games. They suffered 4 defeats. huge defeats, and but they had a number of players back, crucial players back at fullback, centre back, midfield, centre forward, players that didn't show in the league, and these were key players, and they had a strategy of a winning midfield with Aisling McFarlane and Anya Tuberly. That was the strategy, but it was Limerick that decisively won midfield because I thought both Caroline Hickey and Roisin Ambrose had huge games for Limerick. Cathy Meal is absolutely on fire. We saw the publication of the scoring charts as late as the last 24 hours. She's top of the scoring charts with 3-7 in the junior in the junior championship over 2 games, which is a phenomenal return in 2 games. Amy Ryan has been in absolutely fantastic form, and like this is all happening against a background where Limerick on Sunday had only 2 starters that were involved in 2018. Like it's a phenomenal turnover of players when you think about it. And they're into the semi-final now. There is no doubt it will be more difficult. If I were a betting man at this stage, I would say that they will be playing Fermanagh. Fermanagh were beaten at home by Wicklow last week, 9 points to 1-2 in a low-scoring game. Obviously, adverse weather conditions up around Enniskillen. And look, Limerick have built a bit of momentum. They've built a bit of momentum. Like, all right, their league form was disappointing. They had only just picked up a point against Offaly in a draw, and they had beaten Derry comprehensively in Martinstown. That was the sum total of their return from 5 games. But it's a different Limerick team that we're seeing now. And they seem to be growing in confidence week on week. And we always say, Jack, and everybody says it, there is nothing for momentum and confidence like winning games. And in this case, winning football games. And that's what Limerick are doing.
Yeah, and as you said, Wicklow have won both their games. Other side of the draw, they will finish top of the table. So Fermanagh play Carlow this weekend. A Carlow win will see them play Limerick, but you're tipping Fermanagh that one. Again, huge credit.
I'm thinking Fermanagh, but look, I have been reading the narrative just as you have been reading it, and what has been said about it, and like this thing that it's Wicklow's to lose, that the All Ireland is Wicklow's to lose. This is the very same nonsense that was going on 2 years ago when people were saying it was Louth's to lose, and we all know what happened.
We do. And you speak there about just the turnover of 2 players in 2 years is extraordinary, really. And you must credit the work Donald Ryan is doing, as we did with Billy Lee, just to have a new team essentially in 2 years and bring them back to that level straight away, is incredible work.
Yeah, it was incredible, and it was a huge leap of faith to go with so many new players. But they have repaid his fate so far. You can talk all day about winning league matches, this, that, and the other thing, but there's only one competition that really matters at the end of the day. It's lovely winning the league, and it's probably the second best competition. It is more than a consolation if you can win the championship. But one that really matters, Jack, is the championship. And here we are on a fine run in the championship. And look, we'll be talking about, I would say it would be Fermanagh or Carlow anyway, but I would be thinking that it would probably be Fermanagh, but we just have got to wait and see it.
Yeah, and we'll have to wait and see. That game will be on the weekend of the 21st and 22nd of November, which is for now. It's still odd saying that the All-Ireland semi-final will be on at the end of November. Unfortunately, I suppose the Limerick Camogie team, they have their final game on Sunday against Kilkenny in Nolan Park. It'll be Limerick Camogie's last game of the season, regardless of the result. Look, it's been a poor campaign. It's been kind of a tumultuous campaign, really, when you look at it. But you'll be hoping for a performance against last year's All-Ireland finalists. A win is probably very hard to see, but just a performance going in, because there will be a quick turnaround for the 2021 season, that you'll be looking just a positive display from the players and hopefully move on into 2021 for better times.
Absolutely. Let's hope that 2020, I suppose the closure of the chapter of 2020 cannot come soon enough. And there's a huge task facing them going to Kilkenny. It's a Kilkenny team that are unbeaten. They have beaten Waterford pretty comprehensively on their own in Walsh Park. They have absolutely trounced Westmeath. And at the best of times, Nolan Park is a very, very unforgiving place. And it's a very, very difficult tie. You have an interim management there. I've no doubt the players will give it their all, but it's very, very hard to see them coming out of Kilkenny with a victory. It's a Kilkenny team. Kilkenny have been beaten in the last 3 All-Irelands, Jack. And Downey has stepped down as manager. And Brian Dowling has come in. He's not entirely new to the setup in that he was part of Anne Downey's backroom team. But we talked there a while ago about Donald Ryan introducing all the new players. He has introduced up to 5 or 6 championship debutants in the 2 games so far. And I think Kilkenny are probably a team that are going in the very, very much in the right direction. And they had a very, very, very patchy league for them, which untypically they lost the player in Kilkenny. They lost the player at home. They went down to Cork and were taught a bit of a lesson by Cork, which again, games between Cork and Kilkenny tend to be close. This one wasn't. Cork won it very, very decisively. So, the pointers from the league were not good, but obviously they have worked on it. And since the restrictions were lifted, obviously Kilkenny have done an awful lot of work. I'm saying that now, because Limerick are playing them, they will be very, very difficult to beat. But I'm also saying it in the context of the competition going forward. I think very, very little has changed for the top 3. It is still Cork, Galway and Kilkenny, whatever order you'd like to, arrange them. And I think the team that's most likely to break into the top 4 and probably stay in the top 4 for a while are Tipperary.
Yeah, there has been signs of progress in Tipperary. But just on Limerick again for a second. Obviously, it's not been the year we wanted, and there's been a lot of new players as a result of other players not being available. But you'll be hopeful that these 3 games will really stand to those players, and hopefully next year everything can be resolved and Limerick will have a full panel of players to choose from, and that this experience will prove valuable in the long run.
Yeah, you would be absolutely hoping that would be the case, and I think what's a huge disappointment altogether, Jack, of course, is that the junior championship was cancelled, because Limerick had a very, very decent team, a very, very decent junior team this year. As we saw in the league, they had played 3 games, won their 3 games comfortably, had outstanding games against Roscommon and Wicklow, who were the 2 bottom sides in the league. It looked as if they were going straight through to a league final. And of course, they had the mission from last year of going one better than last year when they lost the All-Ireland final. And that would have been an opportunity to blood players at inter-county level and hopefully prepare them for maybe the step up to senior in 2021. But that has been obviously taken from them now, which is a huge disappointment to the work that Francis Kennedy and his backroom team had been doing with the junior team. But it is what it is now at this stage. But certainly the players that you mentioned, and the players that have got their first taste of senior camogie, of senior championship camogie at inter-county level, hopefully they will benefit considerably from it.
Yeah, and hopefully they'll have benefit, and hopefully this time next week, Matt, we'll be looking forward to that. We'll be looking forward to Munster hurling final. We'll have a Munster football final to look forward to, an All-Ireland ladies semi-final to look forward to.
Well, the picture will be clear as to who the ladies are playing. I as I said, if I was a betting man, I would say Fermanagh, but queer things have happened.
Yeah, but look, the ladies footballers have won their 2 games. They obviously have a long break now, which is. It's crazy to think they have 3 weeks. They've obviously a week over the now that they have found this time to have that break, that they can regroup, see what they did right, see what they did wrong, and prove on. And that'll be a vital spell in such a truncated championship, to have 3 weeks together just to get everything right.
It will, and it will be the opportunity for them to run the rule over their opponents. I have no doubt they'll find a way of getting in to see the Fermanagh Carlow game next at the weekend. So the 3 weeks will be welcome, because I'm sure that Donald Ryan will, and his management team will have identified quite a bit that they want to work on, and I thought defensively in both games. I thought they were very, very good. Now they coughed up what I thought was a soft goal against Antrim, but other than that, I thought the defence was excellent. Niamh McCarthy at centre back is a leader, and she's the team captain, and I think they respond as a unit. They look very, very compact, composed, and disciplined in both games, particularly when they were facing the elements in the second half in both games.
Yeah, that's just been brilliant for them so far. And look, we know they're certainly at our place in the semi-final. We just have to wait and see who they'll play. So obviously this weekend, tomorrow, 1:15 in the LIT Gaelic grounds, you have the senior footballers against Tipperary in the Munster semi-final. That game is on RT News Now, which is available on Sairview, from what I can gather. It's not available on Sky. I'm not sure if it's on the player. We'll just have to wait and see. And then the Camogie team are playing on Sunday against Kilkenny at 2:00. That game is live. If you will go into the Camogie website, or I have an article on Sport and Limerick if you want to find that. But both games are available for people to watch. Please God, we'll have a number of finals to look forward to, that we won't be saying goodbye to the footballers with this championship game this year. There's no back door. Hopefully we'll have another fortnight to look forward to footballers. The Hurlers are alive.
What a year, no matter what happens on Saturday, every bit of my being hopes that Limerick will reach a Munster final. But what a year it has been. It has been a defining year for the footballers. Certainly the year in which they reinvented themselves. No question at all about that.
Yeah, and I think the job is done. The job at the start of the year would have been the Division 4 title or even promotion. But you'll know Billy Lino, they're in a Munster semi-final. They will not be thinking about anything else, only Tipperary tomorrow, and I certainly can't wait to see it myself. That's all we have for today. Thanks very much for your time again, Matt, and we'll be in touch next week.
Okay, Jack.